The iron rusts against the salt, a heavy lock, a silent fault. It keeps the ghost within the stair, away from all the morning air. The granite walls are thick and cold, a secret that is never told. Beneath the dust I start to feel a sudden light that's far too real. I didn't turn, I didn't wake, but I felt the heavy silence shake, as if the ocean lost its roar when the sun began to touch the shore. I nearly opened wide, but I kept the shadows locked inside. Every time the horizon clears, I drown inside my ancient fears. I don't know how to shine in a world as bright as thine. Every spark that finds its way vanishes before it stays. The seagulls cry across the bay, 1,000 miles and years away. I watch the fog begin to lift and fear the sudden golden gift. The sky is painted rose and gold, a story waiting to unfold. But when the glass begins to glow, I hide back in the dark. I know I don't know if I can bear the weight of all the beauty there, but every ripple in the haze is a ghost of all my better days. Maybe I've been dark too long to learn the rhythm of the dawn and rise, or a heart that learned to fail before it ever set a sail to prize. I'm a tower made of stone, standing in the wind alone again, and the bitter truth I see is I'm the fog that's blinding me. Touch the door, but I sank back to the dusty floor. I watched the golden promise fade back into the heavy shade. I can't imagine what I'd find if I left the lonely tower behind. But for a breath the sky was clear, and I was almost standing here. Velvet lining in a wooden shell, a secret that I've kept so well. The ballerina stands so cold and stiff, waiting on the edge of a what if. The gears are rusted, the oil is dry, underneath the painted plastic sky. Beneath the surface I start to feel a rhythm that is far too real. I didn't dance, I didn't spin, but I felt the tension deep within, as if the metal forgot the rust when the key began to shake the dust. I nearly let the music play, but I threw the golden key away. Every time the lid begins to rise, I hide the song behind my eyes. I don't know how to move to a melody I can't approve. Every spark that finds its way snaps before it stays. and thin, hiding all the symphonies within. I watch the sunlight hit the brass and feel the moments as they pass. The sky is open, a concert hall, beyond the safety of this wall. But when the first note tries to spring, I choke the wire and the string. I don't know if I can bear the weight of being heard out there, but every shiver in the steel is a song I'm terrified to feel. Maybe I've been silent too long to learn the cadence of a song. Am I or a soul that learned to freeze before it felt the summer breeze in the sky? I'm a masterpiece that's never heard, a silent song, a broken word again. And the lonely truth I see is on the cage that's holding me. I felt the tension snap inside the spring. I'd rather break than let the metal sing. I stripped the gears and ground them into dust until the melody was choked by rust. No more ghosts, no more hollow chimes, just the rhythm of my own designs. I'm the dancer who refused the light and danced into the static of the night. The needles frost in shades of blue, a frozen code I've grown into. It mutes the world, it stills the air, a quiet peace I've learned to share. The timber groans beneath the white, a heavy shield against the light. Beneath the bark I start to feel a sap that's warm and far too real. I didn't lean, I didn't bend, but I felt the winter start to end, as if the mountain lost its height when the valley caught a sudden light. I nearly reached the flame, but I couldn't even call its name. Every time the embers glow, I hide back in the falling snow. I don't know how to burn without a point of no return. Every spark that finds its way, ashes before it stays. The cedar branches catch the heat, a rhythm that I can't quite need. I watch the smoke begin to climb, me. I stood beside the dancing fire, but I stifled every deep desire. I watched the golden embers die back into the winter sky. I can't envision who I'd become if I let the fever make me numb. But for a second I was clear, and I was almost standing here. The silver thread is spun so tight to keep away the jagged light. It weaves a wall around my breath, a quiet life, a gentle death. The willow branches sweep the ground without a single jarring sound. Beneath the weave I start to feel a stirring pulse that's far too real. I didn't break, I didn't tear, but I felt the rush of sudden air, as if the moth forgot its name when the summer's golden calling came. I nearly split the shell, but I crawled back into myself. Every time the garden calls, I fortify these velvet walls. I don't know how to fly in such a deep and endless sky. Every spark that finds its way withers before it stays. Blooms in wild array, 1,000 miles and years away. I watch the petals drift and spin, and fear the world I'm locked within. The sky is white and brilliant blue. I dream I'm terrified is true, but when the fibers start to fray, I weave the sunlight far away. I don't know if I can bear the weight of all the freedom there, but every shiver in the leaves is a promise that a heart believes. Maybe I've been bound too long to learn the rhythm of a song and rise, or a soul that learns to hide before it ever went. beneath the weight of every word I said too late. It seals the rivers in my veins to dull the edge of ancient pains. The permafrost is thick and white, a perfect shield against the light. Beneath the shelf I start to hear a crackling sound I've learned to fear. I didn't reach, I didn't lean, but I felt the flicker in between, as if the frost forgot to hold when something defied the bitter cold. I nearly grabbed the flame, but I couldn't even speak its name. Every time the embers glow, I seek the comfort of the snow. I don't know how to live with more than I am prepared to give. Every spark that finds its way extinguishes before it stays. The walls are weeping silent tears, the melting salt of wasted years. I watch the crystals start to drip and feel the anchor start to slip. The air is dancing with the heat, a pulse that I can't hope to be. But when the cave begins to sigh, I blow the match and say goodbye. I don't know if I can bear the sudden scent of wood smoke there, but every drop that hits the floor is a longing I can't ignore. Maybe I've been nice too long to learn the lyrics to the song and burn, or a soul that learned to freeze before it felt the summer breeze and turn. I'm a winter with no end, fearing what the fire might send again. And the lonely truth I find is I'm the frost I left behind. I felt the heat against my skin, but I refused to let it in. I watched the golden flicker die underneath a frozen sky. I can't imagine what I'd be if the river ran inside of me. But for a second I was warm, and I almost braved the coming storm. The bamboo frame begins to creak, a language that I'm forced to speak. It holds the shape of who I am, a fragile bridge, a lonely dam. The silk is thin and worn by time to hide the rhythm and the rhyme. Beneath the veil I start to see a golden light escaping me. I didn't stir, I didn't sway, but I felt the clouds begin to gray, as if the wick forgot the fuel in a world that's being sharp and cruel. I nearly faced the flood, but I felt the freezing in my blood. Every time the storm gets loud, I hide behind a velvet cloud. I don't know how to shine in a world as dark as mine. Every spark that finds its way dampens before it stays. The droplets drum upon the roof, a heavy rain, a bitter proof. I watch the ink begin to run and fear the setting of the sun. The sky is pouring out its soul to fill the empty and the whole. But when the water starts to soak, I hide my fire in the smoke. I don't know if I can stand to hold the lightning in my hand, but every ripple in the street is a drumbeat I can't quite meet. Maybe I'm too used to try to let the weather fill my eye and wash, or a soul that learned to fold before it ever grew too bold to squash. I'm a lantern made of dust, fearing what I cannot trust again. And the hardest part to see is I'm the shadow haunting me. I felt the thunder shake the ground, but I didn't make a single sound. I watched the glowing ember die rather than let the rain come by. I can envision who I'd be if the storm had finally set me free. But for a pulse, the light was clear, and I was almost standing here. Dunes are shifting in the night beneath the moon of hollow light. They bury every track I leave in a world that's learned to disbelieve. The sandstone withered by the years dries up the salt of ancient tears. Beneath the dust I start to find a garden I had left behind. I didn't reach, I didn't call, but I felt the heavy barriers fall, as if the heat forgot to burn. When the tide of mercy took a turn, I nearly drank the rain, but I chose the comfort of the pain. Every time the well runs deep, I find a promise I can't keep. I don't know how that's washed away. Every spark that finds its way vanishes before it stays. The palm trees shiver in the gale, a vibrant green so soft and frail. I watch the petals hit the ground without a single lonely sound. The sky is opening its veins to pour the life across the plains. But when the parched earth starts to breathe, I find a reason I should leave. I don't know if I can bear the scent of jasmine in the air, yet every ripple in the street is a ghost of some forgotten dream. Maybe I've been dust too long to learn the rhythm of a song in bloom, or a soul that learned to hide before it let the world inside the room. I'm a wasteland wide and vast, haunted by a bitter past again. And the hardest part to see is I'm the drought that's killing me. Before the rising spring, but I'm muffled every silver ring. I turn the emerald back to gray and watch the water drift away. I can't imagine what I'd find if I left the barren lands behind. Before a second, things were new, and I almost saw the sky turn blue. The cedar panels warp and groan in a silence I have made my own. The dust is dancing in the air around a ghost that's standing there. The iron hinges rusted tight to keep away the morning light. Beneath the floor I start to feel a steady hum that's far too real. I didn't reach, I didn't stir, but the edges of the shadows blur, as if the wood forgot its name when the golden call of April came. I nearly turned the key, but I feared the version of me I'd see. Every time the sunlight crawls, I retreat behind these wooden walls. I don't know how to stand in a world that's being unplanned. Every spark that finds its way flickers before it stays. Peeling back to show the ancient hidden crack. I watch the cobwebs start to swing and fear the promise of the spring. The sky is wide and breathing deep above the secrets that I keep. But when the latch begins to give, I find a reason not to live. I don't know if the scent of rain and clover there, but every shimmer on the floor is a world I've seen before. Maybe I've been dark too long to learn the tempo of the song and wake, or a heart that learned to hide before it let the world inside to break. I'm a room with no one there, choking on the heavy air again. And the hardest part to see is I'm the lock that's keeping me. I felt the warmth against the wood, but I stayed right where I always stood. I watched the golden sliver die The silence hardens in the deep, a jagged promise I must keep. It coats the walls in layers of stone to keep the world from what I've known. The chords are sharp against the dark, waiting for a single spark. Beneath the crust I start to see a prism light haunting me. I didn't blink, I didn't gaze, but I felt the warmth within the haze, as if the cave forgot to hide the beating heart I kept inside. I nearly faced the sun, but I felt the need to turn and run. Every time the colors flare, I breathe the cold and heavy air. I don't know how to glow in a world I've come to know. Every spark that finds its way reflects before it stays. The silver veins begin to bleed, a sudden strange and desperate need. I watch the shadows start to dance and fear the danger of a chance. The sky is calling through the rift to give my heavy soul a lift. But when the light begins to burn, I find a corner to return. I don't know if I can stand to hold the rainbow in my hand, but every shimmer on the wall is a height from which I'm scared to fall. Maybe I've been glassed too long to bear the pressure of a song and break, or a heart that learned to steal before it had a chance to feel the ache. I'm a treasure lost in time, committing such a silent crime again. And the hardest part of me is I'm the lock and I'm the key. I stood within the golden beam, but I chose to end the waking dream. I watched the vibrant diamonds fade back into the heavy shade. I can't imagine who I'd meet if I made the journey complete. But for a pulse the walls were bright, and I was almost not afraid of light. Pressure weighs upon the floor, a miles deep lock upon the door. It stills the water dark and cold, where ancient stories go untold. The limestone jagged in the gloom, a quiet and a spacious tomb. Beneath the sill I start to feel a sudden pulse that's far too real. I didn't reach, I didn't sway, but I felt the shadows drift away, as if the salt forgot to sting. When the ocean started whispering, I almost broke the seal to show the world the way I feel. Every time the blue gets bright, I sink away from every light. This heavy velvet mist, every spark that finds its way before it stays. The currents pull a golden thread through gardens that I thought were dead. I watch the colors start to wake and feel the anchor start to shake. The surface is a world of glass, watching every season pass. But when the water starts to warm, I hide beneath my coral form. I don't know if I can stand the touch of something unplanned, but every ripple in the deep is a promise I'm afraid to keep. Maybe I'm too used to wait, to trust a lighter kind of fate and rise, or a soul that learned to drown before it ever wore a crown to prize. I'm the trench without an end, fearing what the tides might send again. And the bitter truth I see is I'm the cage beneath the sea. I felt the warmth begin to bloom, but pull the darkness back to the room. I watched the vibrant